Hey everyone, and welcome back to the pit. I'm Chris, and today we're going to be covering some more of the arcane aspects of casting in Mage the Awakening 2nd Edition. Namely, where do you really start regarding the mentality of casting? Obviously, the mechanical aspects need to be present. Gnosis, mana, the arcana, what have you. But there's more to it than that if you want to pull down magic from the supernal realms and work your will upon the fallen world. Today, while we build up to the casting guide itself, which is coming soon, we're going to go over what other magical ingredients to go into that sexy magical cake, and why exactly they're important not just to your character or their desired effects, but to the integrity of the game itself. Allow me to throw a little history your way regarding myself and Mage games. It started back in ancient times, the year 2000. Most of the music was bad, the hair was worse, and I had only recently gotten into the World of Darkness line of games. At that point, almost the entirety of my experience had been with Vampire the Masquerade Revised Edition. Most of my experience had been playing in White Wolf chat rooms on America Online, and to anyone that had known any better from playing offline with me, I'm certain it showed. To be honest, Vampire had failed to keep me entertained for long, and I started exploring other lines, as I did not want to be restricted to Vampire the Masquerade chat rooms, as they are on AOL, the cesspool of the universe. Eventually, Mage Ascension seemed the most up my alley, as Hunter the Reckoning was not yet available, and I latched onto it. I was awful at first, as pretty much everybody is, but eventually I got it, and during that process, I learned a few very important things. The first, actually read how things work before you implement them into your game. Paradox? Didn't know it was a thing at first, and neither did my players. Figured that out later, and that was something. The second is that Mage, in any incarnation, is the blatant game of bullshitting your storyteller and convincing them that you're not bullshitting them right to their face. It's a fun challenge, and one that really makes the storyteller have to know his stuff or lose control of the game, and quickly. Now, the third, and most important, is if you're focusing on the mechanical aspect of casting only in these games, you're missing the point and doing a massive disservice to your players, yourself, and to the very game you're playing. Of course, always follow that golden rule. As a storyteller, if you want it that way for your game, do it. But bear in mind what the game is actually about and try not to miss that tone. It's all about tone and atmosphere. I want to get that out of the way before we get into these details for Mage the Awakening 2nd Edition, as I know some people gloss over anything that's not explicitly and only about dice play. In fact, I think I'm trademarking that, and you heard it here first. Dice play is a mentality that the point of the game isn't necessarily the story or lore, but just about rolling and stats. That said, let's get into some of these aspects of casting. This is not going to be a crazy long video as I'm working on the others, but I wanted to make sure that we have these covered for when the time comes. The first aspect, and in my opinion the most important for Mage the Awakening, is Imago. Imago in this context translates to a mental image, and is exactly what it sounds like. The Awakened Mage comes up with a desired effect and mentally visualizes that act being worked upon the fallen world. It seems a simple first step, but one that is extremely easy to neglect as a storyteller. However, this serves a few important purposes. First and foremost, it clarifies any of the questions the storyteller may have regarding exactly what the mage was trying to do. Secondly, it lets the storyteller know what, if any, dice modifiers may apply, and I guarantee they will, and what other things need to be addressed before you roll. Thirdly, it makes the storyteller aware of whether a casting is going to potentially suffer paradox, which in this interesting 2nd edition change is whether or not a spell gets warped during the casting because the Awakened pulled an Icarus, or reached for the sky just a little too hard, and it warps it. It used to be a paradox was an effect from insulting reality or casting in front of the wrong person. Now it seems a bit more streamlined, but I'll be saving paradox for its own recording. Now, there are methods of using shortcuts to recall Imago without explaining it every time, and those shortcuts are called yantras. Yantras are methods of using something specific to recall an Imago you already had. It can be almost anything, a specific plate, candle, scent, even a song or something of the like. It's a useful recall system, not mandatory, but super useful. Next, I'm aware I mentioned rotes and practices on my initial guide recording, so we'll save that for a refresher when I make my fully fleshed out guide to casting in Mage the Awakening 2nd Edition. I'm not neglecting them, it just makes more sense to go over that again when we have to, as it's not pertinent to these additional aspects of casting. Moving on, the next two influencers in casting are hand mudras and high speech. I'm lumping them in together as they both have the same roots. Supposedly, Atlantean High Speech is a spoken tongue only understood by other awakened. Hand mudras are, well, sign language for the awakened. Similarly, only understood by other awakened and possibly the rare sleepwalker. Should you have the time and ability to add these to your casting, they both suffer, my brain just quit on me, so I apologize. They both offer bonuses to the casting and assist in avoiding paradox warping your casting. Needless to say, where you cast plays a part as well. Casting in public is always risky for a number of reasons. First and foremost, because of that bit of the abyss in sleepers' souls. However, should an awakened have access to a demesne, which is a private place they call their own for casting, life gets much easier. The same can be said for casting on something called a supernal verge, a place where the fallen world ever so gently caresses the supernal. Obviously, it's easier to pull down magic from next door than across the cosmos, so that makes obvious sense. But be aware, you can also end up in situations where the abyss is maybe larger as an expanse versus where you're casting, and that can slap you in the face too. So as these additional little erratas of casting, most of it will be covered on the final full casting. But don't forget the basics. They can help on even the most simple levels. Utilizing that above yonder technique, even something so small as using specific items when you cast can help, which are known as foci, and most of them specifically attached to a different type of arcana. For example, casting something involving the space arcana, use a mirror or a telescope. Death arcana, a lead coin, or perhaps handcuffs. Even simply taking some turns and concentrating, or runes. These little details flesh out not just the role-playing session, but it can give you that little extra dice push that you need in order to make your magic happen. Anything that the Awakened associate with their arcana can help. It's really up to storyteller discretion, but that's, generally how it's put. Of course, you can always have other Awakened assist in your casting, and it always helps, as magic can most definitely be a team effort. To be honest, not every mage needs to have all the required arcana either, if you can nail that Imago right. If you have a mage that specializes in the prime arcana to fuel the spell, but the other awakened do not, that's not a major issue as long as you all have the same visualized end goal. So of course, if one of them had mind and can use that, that makes life a lot easier, but not always a luxury everybody has. So, all of these little details and more go into casting in Mage the Awakened, and I really hope we're keeping up with this, because as we get along, we're probably going to do a video on Paradox, we're doing the Watchtowers themselves, but when we finally get to the full guide to casting, that's going to be pretty in-depth, so I really hope everybody's got their learning caps on. So, if there's anything specific regarding this that you want covered that we haven't hit, or something that you're afraid may not be in that casting video, please do not hesitate to let us know. We definitely take your input to heart. We listen to what you say. I've seen people mention that sometimes the music has been too loud. I've seen other people mention that certain people need to talk more. And trust me, every little bit of that gets rolled down to the Botch Pit crew. So, thank you so much. We love the fact that you're enjoying these recordings, and we look forward to the next work. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your storytellers and players, or strangers, or anybody. I don't care. Whoever you want to share this with, we're here for it. And that's it. So, thank you so much. See you next time down in the pit. Thank you. Bye.